Because I can't hear a thing.
I have started it now.
But I've just turned this off. But why? Oh.
Hello. There's one person on there now.
We're not terribly next to each other.
Hi everyone, just waiting a few more moments for a few more people. There's a few coming through at the moment, so we'll just give it another 2 minutes.
This is unmute. Well, welcome everybody, and I hope that this recording process is working. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself. Welcome to this webinar, and it's a webinar in which we're going to describe the Medical Device Partnering Programme. This programme is one that's been initiated by the Medical Device Research Institute here at Flinders University, and has been running since 2008, so now for over 12 years. There are a number of elements to the Medical Device Partnering Programme, or MDPP, and I'll try and just briefly touch on some of those, but the majority of the presentation will be about our Ideas Incubator, which is probably the programme that people know best from MDPP. I'm going to ask my partner here, Stephen Blakeney, to present the Ideas Incubator. So Stephen is one of the innovations managers for MDPP. I am the director of the Medical Device Research Institute and the director of the Medical Device Partnering Programme. We'll endeavour to show you some examples of the past projects, and hopefully we'll be able to take some questions. Now, there is a Q&A facility through this webinar, which you should be able to see. So if you do have a question, please type it into the Q&A facility or the box on your webinar, and we will hopefully be able to see them and be able to answer them. Okay. So I'll start just by mentioning a couple of the activities that the MDPP is involved in. We are involved through the MTP Connect, or our MedTech and Pharma Industry Growth Centre for this sector. We're involved in two of the programs that they facilitate, which are funded through the Medical Research Future Fund, or the MRFF. So the first one of those is the Biomedical Translation Bridge Programme. This is a $22.3 million program, which provides up to $1 million in matched funding for translation of new therapies, technologies, and medical devices, taking them through to proof of concept and beyond. That program has been running now for a couple of years. It's had 3 rounds, and it's funded, I think, 21 projects or 21 partners, and it's taking those projects through the commercialization phases. So exciting program. The current funding is now being used up, but we're hopeful there may be opportunity to try and get some more funding through into that program. The second one on the list is the READY, which is Researcher Exchange and Development Within Industry initiative. And this is a $32 million MRFF program. And the idea of this is really to try and develop the medtech and pharma sector workforce. And there are 3 pillars to that program. The first one is expansion of proven programs, and that's where the MDPP is playing a role. So we have READY funds, which is enabling us to take MDPP into a more national phase. So we will be accepting applications from across the country and bringing them through the READY program. And that's our Ideas Incubator program, which you're about to hear a little bit more about. The second one is identifying unknown skills gaps. So the MTP Connect, or the READY initiative, have been identifying those gaps. They've been doing a survey of workforce and skills gaps, and then are going to use that information to try and fund some additional initiatives to help develop the workforce. And then the third pillar is around industry placements, internships and fellowships, and in particularly placements which are again around trying to translate research out into commercialization. So 2 really major programs there that we are involved in. Next slide. Another initiative that we've been working on relatively recently is the Capability Directory, which some of you may have already seen. And this Capability Directory is really trying to bring together information for people as to what organizations are working within the sector. So this is a Capability Directory that already has now over 2,600 organizations listed, and those go across all different parts of the sector. So it may be research organizations, it could be clinical organizations, it could be industry, manufacturers, service providers, etc. The database can be searched by categories, and it's organic. So what I mean by that is that it's actually growing. If you or your organization wish to be listed on the Capability Directory, you can simply fill in the form, and then it will, through a moderation process, will then be added onto the directory. So you're able to firstly add your own information, but also to change that if it evolves over time. So hopefully a really useful resource for the sector. Okay, so now I'm going to talk just very briefly about the Ideas Incubator, which, as I said, is really the main focus of this particular presentation. So the MDPP Ideas Incubator has been designed really to try and facilitate relationships between all the different groups in the early stages of a medical device product development. So it brings together the research organizations together with the clinical community, the end user community, the manufacturers who might make it, the medical device companies who in the end are going to be the ones who are selling the device. Brings them together and really tries to help firstly facilitate those relationships, but as well as just being a relationship builder, it's providing some kind of tangible output. So the program also funds a piece of project work which will then deliver an outcome to the client who's brought the idea. So that might be a prototype, it might be some data, it might be some clinical or early stage kind of clinical data or clinical trial. It's different from other incubators or accelerators that are probably more in the business end of things. So most incubators or accelerators tend to concentrate on the business themselves or concentrate on the entrepreneur. The MDPP is different because it concentrates very much on the idea and the product. And so it really is about looking at an idea for a new device, trying to de-risk it in some process. We don't ignore the business, we don't ignore the entrepreneur, but certainly the main thrust is around the idea and the product as opposed to the business and the entrepreneur. So just briefly then, so I guess the vision of where we came to MDPP was that, you know, we have a vision that Australia could become the fastest country in the world at taking an idea for a medical device and turning it into a product on the market. That's clearly a very large vision, and it's certainly not one that MDPP in itself is going to solve. But what we'd like to do is to take or to play our part in trying to deliver that vision. And the MDPP sees itself as being able to firstly encourage invention and innovation. It provides a focal point for ideas, so almost a one-stop shop where somebody can come with a good idea. And with that, then we'll facilitate the collaborations needed at those early stages to bring in the very diverse range of partners that might be needed for the development of that device. The tangible part then is to rapidly test feasibility, to develop a prototype, do some testing, etc. And then really a broader objective is really then, as I said, is to play our part in trying to accelerate the medical device industry here in Australia. I'm now going to hand over to Stephen. So Stephen will talk you through the MDPP process and give you some examples of some of the ideas and projects that have actually come through the program.
Yeah, so my role as an innovations manager, we help. So I guess firstly, at the ideation stage, anyone can submit an idea through our website, mdpp.org.au, and that'll come through to an innovations manager based on where that particular inquiry has come from. We have a whole different group of people. So when the idea comes through, we help to guide that idea through our process, our application process. So that starts with the ideation. Then we do some screening. So that can be working with our R&D manager to work out what sort of project, what's achievable in 250 hours. We do some due diligence about the idea, possibly talk to some clinicians to get some feedback. If things look good through that screening phase, then the next step is a workshop. Workshops where we get a multidisciplinary panel. So that could be manufacturers, could be patent attorneys, could be researchers with particular expertise in whatever the inquiry is. The idea is, and a lot of people really find that the workshop's one of the most valuable parts of the whole process, is as a third party, we're able to bring these people together. And with 12 years of running this program, we have some good connections, and people come together and they really enjoy being able to help. It's all done under confidentiality, and really enjoy being able to help to shape that idea. And one of the beauties of it is that they also are often willing, then they have that early stage, and then once our project is finished, they have a little bit of almost investment in terms of the time that they put in up front. So they're happy. Sometimes they go on to be key opinion leaders for the applicants as well. Next, we have our decision making. So we're able to run this through a variety of government grants. As such, we have sort of a layer of governance in the ideas that we take through. So we have an independent assessment panel that ultimately makes the decision on what projects we're able to take forward through the process. We work on an application together with the applicant to be able to provide a really good story around exactly what the idea is, what the market is, the reasons behind it, and what we're going to be able to feasibly do in 250 hours to be able to help assist to progress the idea. Then we have the develop the solution stage, which is where we have, whether that's a team of people here at the Medical Device Partnering Programme, or whether that's subcontractors. If we don't have that particular expertise, we're able to use whoever we think is able to best deliver on that project. as well as developing on the technical side. So we also hand over at the end a technical report. All of the intellectual property that's developed is handed over. We do a market report, so a 30-hour market report, and that's all handed over, and that's that last stage. And although in this we have handover is our last stage, we do carry on working with a lot of the people who have come through our process, so whether that's through ongoing research collaborations here at Flinders or one of our partners, or whether that's industry connections or opportunities with grants, or even sometimes some additional information that comes to us, or partners that might come to us and want to work with past clients. We're able to then keep in contact and to help people after they've left the program as well. So the offer, as I've touched on, 250 hours of product development or trials, so very small trials. 250 hours is not a huge amount of trial work you can do, but something, I mean, as a research organization, we want to see some research, but that can come either in that product development or a trial, and then the 30-hour of market research. And that costs $5,000. The $5,000 is once we've gone through that workshop stage. Once the project's been approved, that's where the contribution $5,000 comes in. We realized very early on that one of the challenges around how startups in general, but particularly in medical devices, where there's such a long time from ideation to getting to market when you've got the regulatory side. We realized that there's a whole disconnect between the manufacturers, the researchers, the clinicians, and it's really about how we bring all those people together. And people are often worried about IP, and that stops people from talking to other people. So all the work we do, we don't keep any of the IP. At the end, everything's handed over. And the idea is that we know that although we play an important role, it's very early on, and most people at that early stage are taking a big risk and they want to take a lot of ownership over the idea. We're very keen not to do that. We really just want to help as many people as possible. And that sort of works towards what Karen was saying about the idea of helping Australia become the fastest at taking a medical device idea to market as quickly as possible. We also have, through our great connections, lots of people, manufacturers, hospitals, end users, IP, patent attorneys, who are all part of our process, willing to give their advice and work with people. And we think, and it's a common thing, often with people who come to us as well, that perhaps often clinicians come to us. It's not just clinicians with very broad spectrum, but as a clinician, you might be working day to day on something and you know you've got an idea and you've got frustrations around that, but they might not know the manufacturers or sort of what to do with that idea. The idea really for our program is that we're able then to work with someone who might not really have seen too much of what the ecosystem is, but we help to make those connections. The other thing, as I mentioned before, is ongoing funding opportunities. There's some collaboration ongoing. Often people don't realize that there's a whole load of opportunities with the university that are very research organization specific, so we're able to assist on some of those as well. In terms of eligibility criteria, so we look at things that are a medical device, as in it's listed under the Therapeutic Goods Act, so TGA classification required, or an assistive device, so in things such as rehabilitation or disability or aging. We want to see devices that resolve a problem or an unmet need. They have to be novel, so we don't want to develop devices where there's a huge number of competitors. We're only able to run a small number of projects per year, so we have to have some level of novelty that we know that there'll be a higher chance of success. We have to know that we can do something in 250 hours that's really going to be able to help the project, and we work with people, so you don't have to know all of this when you come to us, and we're happy to work with you to just see if it is going to be commercially viable, and some of that comes in from that feedback that we get from clinicians. So in terms of what projects look like, often it's design and prototyping or prototype refinement, some validation and testing type work. We have building, a lot of the time it's building a proof of concept, occasionally those small scale trials. And we do some app development that goes along with devices. We tend to steer clear of pure software applications, as they tend to be quite large and difficult projects. It's harder for us to find that 250-hour project. And as we mentioned, the devices for rehabilitation as well. So good application, something that really clearly meets that unmet clinical need or a substantial improvement. And if someone can come to us with a really clear idea of what we can do in 250 hours that's really going to help and what that will lead to. So if it leads to a patent filing or capital raising, or so often we get people where perhaps they've done a lot of the market research, they've got a great idea, they need to raise some capital just to be able to develop a proof of concept, because that's what investors are looking for. We're able to sort of work in that space where it gives a really great story on why we're able to do that project, because we know at the end of that they've got a really great chance of then going on to be able to do something very, very good with that. So just in terms of the program, so we've got people on the ground in Adelaide and Melbourne. We've been running for 12 years now. We've assessed 665 ideas. We've done 171 of those facilitated workshops, and we've done 93 projects, and we have a lot of projects on at the go at the moment. It's been an exponential growth for us, so those numbers will grow very rapidly over the next few years. We thought we'd introduce a few of our a few case studies on people that we've worked with. So Neomorph was a great example of it was a dental hygienist who came to us, who also had children. One of the children had braces, really struggled, especially coming from a dental background. She knew that really you've got two options. You've got the ball and bite cheap mouth guards, not very good with people with braces, or you've got the expensive braces, custom made, but they're expensive, and when you've got braces, your teeth change very often. So it's not feasible to really spend a lot of money on that mouth guard. The idea of this project was really to create a best of both, so something in the middle where it's got the quality of those expensive mouth guards, but cheaper and remoldable. So we worked with some of the material scientists here at Flinders University to develop this 3-layer polymer mouth guard. Connected it with a local manufacturer here in Adelaide who's now manufacturing these, helped to connect her to accelerating commercialization, who've been able to provide some funding to help her get to market. She's just going through the final round of testing, so that'll be early 2021 that she'll be able to launch that product just in time for the next winter season. And she's been a great example of really someone who came in with an idea, no idea what to do with it, and really after the program then gone on to do some really good things. Next, got an example of so Ostofix is a well-established orthopedics company. They came to us with an idea around, so the nail that they place in the femur, typically the surgeon would use x-rays to pick out the point where they drill to fix that nail. We developed a system where we use electromagnets to be able to position the guide to drill the hole, to be able to do the surgery without having to use lots and lots of x-rays. And that works exclusively with their system. They've really come to us and said that that's helped them then to go on and to break new markets with their orthopedics products, to have that really great application device. So that's selling in 29 countries worldwide now. Finally, we've got the U-stand frame. So this was, when this came, seemed so simple that someone would have done it. So the frame helps patients get up out of bed, but then also move so that it helps them to stand as well. It seemed like a simple idea, and we were sure someone would have done that already. looked everywhere, couldn't find it, worked with a local engineering company to develop the product. And again, that's gone on to do so we did a multi-site trial. It's been very popular, now selling worldwide and doing very well. So one of the things we're looking at the moment is really showcasing some of the people who come through the program. Often people come out and so sometimes people have just developed some very early IP that they're still looking to protect, and they're not at the stage where they really want too much publicity. Sometimes we get great companies. So we're hosting our first showcase event next month. So we'll send out information for anyone else who would like to join that event as well. And that's really about the companies that come through. So we've got UniSA Ventures, who we've helped to develop a point of care test for preeclampsia, which is hypertension during pregnancy. We've got JD Samed, who are developing a combined ophthalmoscope, dermatoscope, and otoscope, and neuromorph mouth guards that we mentioned earlier. The idea really is for them to be able to present their ideas and to facilitate some of those next steps, but also to really give a clear idea of some of the benefits that these people have enjoyed from coming through our program. So I guess just to summarize, the things that we've learned over the 12 years that we've been operating, it's really hard to access expertise. So really that ability that we have to be able to connect people in that early stage is just so important. That you really need a third party to be involved. So the role that we can play in facilitating the collaboration, and particularly as a university or our partner universities who run the program, being able to do it as that unbiased or third party really does help. Motivations and rewards aren't necessarily aligned, so it's really important to be transparent. We're very aware of the struggles for startups, for people developing, so we really value that openness and honesty and transparency in helping to develop. We've learned that fast fail is a necessary evil. We do get people who come with ideas that just, there is a reason why they're not going to work, so being able to help people not pursue an idea is almost as valuable as being able to help them pursue it. You do get people who've maybe learned that a little later and they wish that they'd known earlier. So we really see some value in being able to put some time and effort into to really assess the idea and decide whether it is necessary. That we see that our projects really provide that tangible evidence. So we provide a technical report, we provide a market report. Those third-party reports are so valuable for startups that go on, and often we get people who come back and say that maybe they've been talking to an investor and they've talked about the market size, and they've said that the market that they've explained, they said, well, you would say that, obviously you'd say that, and they've been able to say, no, we've worked with the medical device partnering program, they've provided this report, really provides that third-party validation. Also, we've learned that it's really hard to, everyone wants to be like Silicon Valley and have startups. It's really hard in any early stage innovation to be able to, there's always going to be struggles. There's never going to be enough money around in this. And you always need a model like MDPP, particularly in a highly regulated space. It just really helps in that early stage to give people that initial validation to show that it is worth pursuing. So I think next we've just got a short video that sort of summarizes the whole program and a few interviews from various stakeholders in our program.
We're an ideas incubator supporting early stage innovation and technology development. It might be that someone just has a concept for a new medical device. It might be that they've got an early stage prototype. And the role that we play is connecting all of the pieces of the puzzle.
Currently, especially in breast cancer cases, they have no way of determining during the surgery whether or not they've removed the entire tumour. So effectively what happens is in between 15 and 20% of cases, the patient has to go in for a follow-up surgery.
Emotionally, it's something of a roller coaster. Because I had to have second surgery, the time before I could start having chemotherapy and finally radiotherapy, both of those had to be delayed. And you know all through this that time is of the essence.
So the need that was identified was a tool that could actually be used in theatre to be able to measure to see whether or not the entire tumour had been removed. So what we had developed here was a probe that can actually look at the surface of the tissue. So simply by placing the probe in contact with the surface and doing a measurement, you can actually tell whether or not the place you're in contact with is healthy or cancerous. The MDPP was involved in both developing some of the sampling hardware that we use. So they talked to some of the surgeons and some of the end users to try and develop this. So what they gave to us was a prototype of the device, as well as actually doing some market research to have a look to see what sort of needs were out there, what were the competing technologies, and how did our device fit into all of this.
So from a researcher's perspective, the best part of the MDPP is being able to really direct or provide some really critical insight to an idea or a theme. The medical device partnering program is fantastic because it gives you an opportunity to be involved in possible product development or prototype development. So at that leading edge of where an idea might be coming from an idea into something tangible and having lots of input, which brings so much experience to the table as well. And you can have multiple experts from multiple domains looking at your idea from all their different perspectives. So it can be mathematicians or engineers or designers and end users, people who might use it and people who might make it for you as well. It's even hard to describe how valuable that is to someone who's just got an idea and who wants to move it forward.
I was looking for ways of collaborating on these projects to try and commercialise some of the ideas that I was having through my work as a registered nurse. We've needed 3D printing, engineering support. There's a lot of complexities. It also gave us access to academic staff, which we needed, because we were looking for proof of concept. So we sat down and they really critiqued the project to sort of look at some of the things I hadn't considered, some of the commercial aspects, some of the manufacturing aspects. At the end of the day, a $5,000 investment for 250 hours of work is pretty hard to beat.
And actually, it's not just research for research's sake, it's actually research that will help develop ideas, but ultimately help to benefit patients. So it really is focused about improving clinical outcomes, improving quality and safety, and making something efficient and making something work.
It would have made such a difference to me and all the women I met while I was going through treatment to have had something like this that would have allowed us to just have one surgery. Just a few weeks can make an enormous difference. We just need as many tools in the toolkit to deal with cancer as we can possibly get.
The MDPP was able to provide market support research, which are critical to actually being able to get this device to the point that it's at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen. That was a good overview of the programme. Now we're going to open up for questions. So please, if you do have a question, please use the question and answer button that I explained at the beginning of the seminar. We do have one question that has come through, so presumably people can see these questions, but I will read it. Hi. Can overseas inventors or startups work with your program, or is it limited to only startups based in Australia? The answer to that is, unfortunately, no, we can't work with overseas inventors and startups. We are Australian and South Australian and Victorian funded, which makes it difficult for us to work with international partners. Having said that, if there's an opportunity for someone from overseas to perhaps bring something to Australia and work with an Australian partner, there may be opportunities. So we're certainly always willing to talk to people and see if we can facilitate relationships which may result in a relationship between Australia and an international partner. The second question, what is involved in the screening process? Stephen, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so it's case by case. It really does depend. So often we'll get people who, so for example, if it's a researcher, often the technology is quite well proven, so then it's more looking around the market. If it's a clinician, then they might have the idea, and then it's looking at probably a little bit more around the technology and what we can do to develop it. So it really is case by case. We do look, so we'll do a very basic patent search to see, depending on how complex it is, we'll just have a look to see what else is out there. We'll do just some general searches to find any other competitive devices. perhaps talk to some of the clinicians in our network who are involved in that area. And the other thing is to mention that we're more than happy to sign a confidentiality agreement at the beginning. So all of this can be done under confidentiality if people are concerned about that. Yeah, the idea really depends on the questions that we have around the idea really, to what goes into that screening process.
Okay, the next question. What connections do you have with hospitals and medical device companies to collaborate and test with? Is it appropriate to join at the prototype stage, already patented and selling commercially for non-medical? There's sort of, I think, a few questions in there. So what connections do you have with hospitals and medical device companies to collaborate and test with?
So we've got, yeah, good connections to multiple hospitals. So, I mean, we're based at Flinders University, so we have Flinders Medical Centre as part of our location. They're our neighbours, and a lot of the medical staff there are part of the university. So, but also nationwide. I mean, our partners in Victoria work with many of the hospitals down there, and we work with some of the other hospitals here. So we've got really good connections into the hospitals. As you can see from our capability directory as well, I think that gives you a really good idea of the number of people that we have in our database, the number of connections that we do have. So we get a huge variety of different inquiries in different spaces, and we're able to really quickly adapt to what comes in, to who we're able to pull in and who we're able to work with.
I guess the answer also, though, is if there are other people out there who would like to be involved and are from an organisation that haven't necessarily had much to do with MDPP, would certainly be very happy to talk with you and, you know, welcome your involvement in the programme. I think in 2019 we had 450 different people from 30 different organisations involved in those 2-hour brainstorming workshops that Stephen described. So we do get a lot of different people coming through those, and it is a really interesting process, and it's so invaluable for the person who's brought the idea to be able to connect to all those different people.
And I guess that, and the other point is that, yeah, being involved in the process doesn't mean submitting an idea. There's so many ways to be involved, and we're always grateful for anyone who wants to be involved in any capacity, even if it is assisting with some of the screening that we do or the workshops that we do.
Just in the same question, is it appropriate to join at the prototype stage, already patented and selling commercially for non-medical? So I understand from that this is something that's already being used in a non-medical setting, but you're looking to try and bring it in as a medical application, and you have some kind of prototype. Hopefully I've got that right. Absolutely. People, to be fair, people come to us at all stages. So they start, the very earliest phases. Some people come with really just a concept and an idea. A lot of people will come with an early stage prototype. Some people will come with a finished product that they are selling even into another medical application, but are looking to see if they could expand their market and use it in a different medical or clinical setting. So, the actual stage of development is not really important, provided there's some reason why we could be of assistance to try and take that through to the next phase. Next, do you accept applications in digital therapeutics? Good question. Digital therapeutics, it depends. There's lots of, my definition of digital therapeutics is probably different to other people's. We wouldn't accept sort of drug type therapeutics. We are really very much device and technology focused from that perspective. So digital therapeutics, to be honest, I'm not entirely clear what that implies. Stephen, can you help me out?
I would say, if in doubt, submit an inquiry on the website. It doesn't matter. And we can always say that it doesn't fit. The form is very quick and easy to fill out.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem if it's not eligible. Even if it's not eligible, we'll try and help connect you with someone who might be useful. We don't make a habit of just turning people away with nothing. We do like to try and help wherever possible.
Okay, are there any other questions? We've sort of, oh, here. Hang on a sec. Ah, there's another screen coming. Okay, at the decision-making stage, do you consider market access into different regions?
I think at least, I think it often is good that people think internationally. I think most medical device, most people would say Australia on its own isn't going to be enough to make a really good business. So I think having a look at and having a clear idea of what markets and maybe which order you're going to target them is great. I think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, one of the criteria to get accepted through the program is that there is a reasonable commercial opportunity. So if the market is very restricted, you know, it could be a very big market and only be local, or it could be, you know, a global market. But really one of the criteria is that there is a significant commercial opportunity.
And as long as the company's based here, we're ideally manufacturing them here, it doesn't really matter where they're being sold with. As long as they're selling, I think everyone's quite happy.
Okay. In the first instance, who should we reach out to review a device concept to see whether it's of interest in general terms? Bruce? Oh, no, not Bruce. This is from Bruce. Sorry, Bruce. Stephen?
Again, I'd say, so occasionally people do come directly to us to talk the idea through. I would say the best way is, once you put your application through on our website, you're in our system, you know, you're on our list, we make sure we keep following up, we make sure we talk everything through with you. So you're more than welcome to try and contact one of us individually, but honestly, I'd say, and you don't have to put a huge amount of information then in your inquiry, just some very basic information, takes 2 minutes. It's as quick as writing an email, and then we'll follow up and we'll be able to talk and decide whether it fits.
Yeah, so there is a form on the website. As Stephen says, you can just ring if you want, but you know, otherwise just fill something in. We'll get back to you as soon as we possibly can.
Roger, Bruce.
Roger, Bruce. Right. Any other questions coming through? Okay, you've got 10 more seconds to think of a question. Otherwise, we will draw this to a close. Well, you have our details. We've got the website up there for you, which will give you any contact details you need. It's got the web form for filling in if you have an idea that you'd like us to work with you on. So I think that's probably it. So I'd just like to say thank you very much to you for attending. Thank you to Stephen for the presentation, and we hopefully will look forward to meeting some of you and working with some of you into the future. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.